Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who has absolutely nothing bad to say about the Las Vegas Raiders. Kyle, how's it going?
Doing pretty good. I love the Raiders. We love the Raiders on this podcast. This is a pro Raiders podcast, so let's get into it.
Yes, notoriously we have, and specifically you, Kyle. I think one of the first podcasts we did, because we started during the off season, we did a preview of the AFC West, and you were like, "Oh, this Raiders, this team stinks, and Derek Carr's overrated." And the comment section was not a fan of you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they finished last in the division too. So.
I'm sure they did. Kyle,
Yeah.
The Kansas City Chiefs have finished first for seemingly forever. Can you guess the last quarterback to win the AFC West that did not play for the Chiefs?
Peyton Manning?
Yeah, Peyton Manning. In 2015, when they won the Super Bowl, that was the most recent time. Since then, the Chiefs have won the division. Even that year that Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl, the Chiefs still had 11-5 record and won a playoff game. They beat the Texans 30-0 before losing to the Patriots. That's how long of dominance this has been for Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, they've been good basically since Andy Reid got in there. And I mean, even through the 2000s, they've been a pretty stable franchise for a lot of years. They've had good players come through. ESPN did this ridiculous list of like greatest team of the half century. And like Priest Holmes was their first running back, which like still blows my mind. Like I like Priest Holmes a lot, but they didn't have LaDainian Tomlinson and Adrian Peterson on the list. I was just instantly throw this in the trash. But anyway, this team's been good for a number of years, is my point. And since Andy Reid is taken over, we talk a lot about the Patrick Mahomes era, which obviously is the era they start winning Super Bowls. But the stability of this franchise over the years, I think, is something that's been understated because it's been 15 or so years since this team's actually been bad or anything close to bad. Like they've just been steadily pretty competitive year in, year out. And then once they got the quarterback, they became great. So they've been doing a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, in 2012, with Romeo Crennel as a head coach for a day, and ended up. Oh, hello, dog. They were 2-14. The dog has a lot to say here. So Andy Reid got there in 2013. They have missed the playoffs once in that time frame. They still went 9-7 that year. So that's just talk about no losing seasons. Reid, since being the Chiefs, has only had winning seasons and only made the playoffs. Only missed the playoffs once. So that's pretty impressive stuff, Kyle. We will get into all this. We will see if the Chiefs can overcome, can keep it going. I do have to say, though, while we still all expect the Chiefs to win, I think that's the conventional pick here. We'll get into the poll a little bit later on. There is some real competition this year. This is not a one-team division the way it has been in previous years. There are two other teams coming off of playoff appearances. Both went 1-0, but they still made the playoffs. The Raiders have a new coach, a new quarterback, a new running back. They've made a lot of adjustments that way. This is a new team that this is a new look division here in the AFC West.
It is a new look division. I think it is the most competitive the division's been in the Mahomes era. In fact, I have it as the second best division in football this year. I think all four of these teams can make the playoffs. I think they all could be really good. Somebody has to finish fourth in my predictions, so I don't want anybody to take it negatively when I say they're going to finish fourth.
Already doing some, preemptive, trying to get the Raiders fans off your back.
Yeah, I'm trying to defend myself here, but look, someone in a good division is going to finish fourth, and I think these could all be good teams. Even if a team wins 7 games, I think it could be a good 7-win team in just a brutal division with some brutal luck. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out, and I think as we saw last year, we saw 2 teams really overperform, and then we have a 4th team here that is adding a lot of pieces this offseason, looking to be more competitive.
Who do you think will end up being the better team? The second best team in the NFC South, or the best team in or the worst team in the AFC West?
On paper or by record?
By not by record, but like who's like just the better team?
I would still take the best team in the NFC South. I think Tampa's going to be better than the worst team, but I think, it's closer than people think, for sure.
Okay, well, let's get into the list, Kyle. You already said it's the second ranked team. Who do you have finishing 4th in the AFC West?
Yeah, like I said, second ranked division. Somebody has to finish last, as I said, and Yeah, we need some spicy takes. I felt like last show was a little vanilla, pretty straightforward, I think, for the most part, outside of second and third. Let's go Los Angeles Chargers, number 4.
Okay, all right. That is not what I did. I had. I'll be honest. I have to kind of. I don't know where this is going, so I had my Raiders notes up, assuming that's where you were going to go, Kyle. I'm a little bit surprised.
No, I got some spicy takes. So let's go Chargers at 4 here. I think this can be a very good team. I think they overperformed based on the talent on paper last season, and it it's unfair to say to a team that won, what did they win, 11 games last year, to say prove it to me again. But yeah, I kind of want to see it proven to me again. Like, I think that there's some awesome pieces of this team. Justin Herbert, despite the playoff performances, which, playoff performance last year, which wasn't great, um, you know, still still is awesome. He's still an awesome player. This tackle tandem is one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league this next season, with Joe Alt being a year older. But outside of that, there are still plenty of things that I want to see get better, or see proven to me that this is a formidable group. I think this team really excelled in the secondary last year. And while there's a couple nice pieces in the secondary, I want to see how those guys perform in back-to-back seasons. The receiver thing has obviously been much talked about. I don't think they got that much better at receiver. And yeah, so I think along those lines, there are some questions here for the Chargers that I still need answer, and I want to see it proven to me again before I'm all in on this team.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Again, I think that we'll get into all of this. I do think that we can argue how much better did they get? Did they maximize their draft capital with drafting a running back instead of going for a different position? All of that stuff. But I think where I'm a little bit surprised is they have, obviously Chiefs excluded, they have, I would say, then the best head coach and the best quarterback in this division. Jim Harbaugh, I would have as a tier 1 head coach right now. Herbert, there is just a ton of takes about Herbert now. It feels like everyone's lost their mind about Justin Herbert. He is a very good quarterback. He should not be put up in the conversation of Lamar and of, Allen and all those guys. But he's, to me, a very clear, he's the face of the tier 2 quarterbacks for me, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I mean, yeah, I think everyone's lost their mind. He still has, just unspeakably good arm talent. He's accurate with the ball over the field. I mean, he was the master of play action last year. They completely changed his offensive game plan, and it worked to perfection. He was awesome in a lot of stretches last season, especially down the stretch when they needed to win some big games, and he was able to do it. So yeah, this coach and quarterback tandem is really good. It's probably, you said it's the second best in the division. It might be the second best in football as far as quarterback and coach tandem. So it's really that good. I think the question I have for this, though, is just is that going to be enough again? We saw it over and over again that it is a lot of times, but at the same time, we also said that was the thing for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Well, they have better coach and quarterback, so they're going to win. It didn't work. They got beat up that one. And yeah, I think that Jim Harbaugh has an incredible knack for getting a lot of players to overperform their expectations, but how long can you continue to rely on that over natural talent? And I think that's something I just want to keep seeing proven to me, and it's probably unfair, but I think that's something that's going to be graded out negatively on paper.
Well, let's go with the other real positive of this team, the offensive line. You brought up the tackles. Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater doesn't get much better than that at the tackle tandem. They also added Mekhi Becton, who played 1,100 snaps last year, still missed a little bit of time with injury with that. You hope you can get him healthy. You also have Zion Johnson, who's just the most fine guard in the league, right? He's just he does a job. He's good. He's not spectacular. And then you have, for centers, they have Andre James and Bradley Bozeman. So, even if they have an injury, they should be able to mix and match a little bit. This is a tier 1 offensive line for me. It has depth. It has stars. I'm all about this offensive line.
Yeah, I do in theory, I mean, the tackles are what they are. I mean, they're fantastic. They're going to win a lot of battles one-on-one. I have no issues with them. 10 out of 10, no notes. The interior, I do have some questions about. Mekhi Becton, obviously, I was a big fan of his at the draft. He struggled a little bit, dealt with some injuries, all that kind of stuff. Played a huge factor in that. But at the same time, how many times have we seen guys leave Philadelphia as far as offensive linemen go and just not be the same player? How is that going to affect Becton? Plus his health issues and his health record. How is that going to play a part? is there a point where this interior offensive line becomes a huge problem for this team because they're just not good enough in those spots, and Becton gets hurt or reverts back to the mean?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I do think that the good side is it's not like you're going, like I'm blanking on his name now. The guy who went to the guard who went to Pittsburgh, where it's not like you're going from like a great offensive line to a bad situation. You're going from a great offensive line to another great offensive line. So I think I'm a little bit less concerned, but it's totally fair to bring up. Also, we should bring up the running backs of drafted Amarian Hampton in the first round, so they're expecting a lot from him. They also have Najee Harris, who I thought was very good last year. So again, we'll see. I wasn't as high on Hampton as other people were. And Kyle, when it comes to running backs, that's my position. Okay, everything else I'm so on at best. Running backs I have down, but you never know, right? We'll see if he can exceed my expectations. I still think he'll be pretty good. But ultimately, I'm going to go tier 3 running back room just because it is a rookie. We'll see how it works. I do like Najee Harris though.
Yeah, Bijan turned out pretty good.
What's that?
Bijan turned into a bit of a star.
Yeah, I had him as my number 1 running back.
You were cooler on him than most.
I said let's pump the brakes on him being Derrick Henry. I think that was correct.
Yeah, I guess. Fair. Okay. Mm-hmm. If the take was he's not Derrick Henry, then yes, you win. Yeah. So like I said, another one where it's like Najee Harris had a career year. Can he continue that, or is he going to be a guy that reverts to the mean? That's another one that I kind of want to see. Based on last season, though, do you think they upgraded at running back from Harris or from Dobbins to Harris?
I do. I don't think Dobbins was as good as his numbers would suggest. I think that he was a running back who got a lot of touches in a run-heavy offense, but I don't think that they were getting elite level running back play.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not even adding to the factor of Hampton, who can be a big play threat. He is quick. He has elusiveness. He's going to be fun to watch if he's at his best. And yeah, I mean, if he lives up to his best in college, then I think he's going to be awesome. So we'll see.
The downside of this offense is the receiving room. It was a downside last year, and I think it played a role in that playoff game. Obviously the headline was how bad Herbert played because he just it was the worst. He threw more interceptions in the playoffs than in the regular season. It only played 1 playoff game. But I do think that receiving core really was Ladd McConkey doing it all. He's great. Like Ladd McConkey a lot. You have Quentin Johnston, who can get open. He can't catch the football. They did bring back Mike Williams to see what he can do. They drafted Trey Harris, who some people do really like coming out of the draft. I wasn't as crazy about him either, but again, we'll see. You have Will Dissly and Tyler Conklin at the tight end position. It's not a great weaponry. This is tier 4, and you could argue that's generous. I do like Ladd McConkey enough to put it up to tier 4, though.
Yeah, I like McConkey too, but he is a slot guy. He's not going to win a lot on the outside, but he does a lot of things well. He makes sense for what the offense and the scheme they want to run is because, like I said, it was a lot of play action last season. So they do a good job of that and putting him in positions to succeed. But this is still not quite what you wanted as far as an upgrade. You were kind of hoping this team would go in for a little bit of a bigger weapon, whether it was through the draft or through free agency, even if it was adding a guy like a Cooper Kupp, who may not be awesome, but just as an upgrade at the position, he wouldn't have had to move or anything. It would have been ideal. But they decided not to do that. It is what it is, but I think it's still a bit of a downside. They had some big games last season, no doubt. You could point to the end of the season when they lit up the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Raiders, I think back to end the season. And they're going to need that again because this is not going to be an easy division to navigate. Like I said, I think the Raiders are much improved. I think that defense is going to be better too. And it's not like you're going to have any easy pickings as far as division wins go with these defenses you're going to face. And you need these receivers to be able to win on the outside some.
Yeah, it's an issue. Again, they're going to run the ball. They're going to try to get us over the middle stuff, but it's definitely an issue. This secondary is weird, right? I mean, it was one that punched way above its weight class last year. It felt like every time they played a great receiving core, when they played Tampa Bay, they struggled. When they played Cincinnati, they struggled. But when they played everyone else, they looked really good. They then lost pieces. So as of right now, I mean, you have Tarheeb Steele. The interior secondary should be good, right? Of Tarheeb Still as the slot corner, the safeties of Derwin James and Aloy Gilman. That should work. Elijah Molden as well for safety. But in the corners, it's just okay, so I guess it's going to be Cam Hart. And then is Dante Jackson getting it? Are we going to get Benjamin St. Juste reps here? That's not ideal.
Yeah, I'm worried about that spot. That's the biggest worry for this defense is, are they just going to get thrown on the outside? And yeah, maybe those safeties make up for it, but it's still not great. Like maybe you find a way to mix Tony Jefferson into the mix here too. I don't know how exactly that works, but it's not an ideal situation for me at all. And yeah, I have some concerns about that. I think that's really where you start to see some of the struggles on this team is how do they get stops on the outside against good receivers and good offenses? And there's a lot of good receivers and good offenses that they're going to face.
Yeah. I do think they have. So they let Joey Bosa go. They decided to keep Khalil Mack. Got kind of a team-friendly deal with Mack, who Mack still, again, he's going to be 34 this upcoming season. We'll see if he can still play at a high level. He was playing at a high level at 33, though, right? Like, this is still a very good player. You have Tupalopu. Still, I got to learn how to say his last name because he's going to be in the league for a while. But he's an effective enough edge rusher, too. I think you feel okay about that. And then, again, fine enough linebackers, Dan Henley, Denzel Perryman, Choi Dye, not household names, but good enough guys. Interior Tier Hurt, Deshaun Hand, like players that should be effective enough. I would like another edge rusher here as like a depth player. Cause again, are we getting like Bud Dupree? Are we getting another 500 snaps out of him? I don't love that situation. So I think it's fine enough, but I'm not crazy about this. To be honest, I think I'm still going to go tier 3 pass rush and run defense, partially because I don't know how much pass rush they're getting from the inside. I think it's going to have to be a lot of Khalil Mack.
Yeah, and it could even be lower, honestly, in the run defense on the interior, too. I don't think it's an awesome group overall. And, yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a bit of a worry for me this year as well. If they can't rush the passer and they can't defend in coverage, like they got a lot of depth production from their edge rusher group. That was really impressive, along with Mack having another great year. That's going to be the big thing for me is just like, is it guaranteed that Khalil Mack's going to be awesome again next season? I don't think it is. Right. Like, I just think that's one of those things where he's getting older, and I think it could I think that's going to be a bit of a concern. So, yeah, there are a lot of concerns, I think, for this Chargers defense where, this is still kind of like a bit of a star-driven team in a lot of ways, but I just feel like there's a lot of places to poke holes in this team and have some concerns. This is going to be the Jim Harbaugh special. Can he get those other guys to perform above their expectations, above their weight, and do enough to let these stars really shine and continue to dominate?
And I think I'm going to bet on that answer being yes. I just think that we've seen Jim Harbaugh do this enough that I'm going to lean towards that happening. I still think you get a bad coach in there. I still think this is maybe like an 8-win team, like a mediocre team. I think of Harbaugh in there. I'm going to go 10-7 with this Chargers team. I agree. I don't know if they're like a dominant, absolutely, this is a, playoff team, but this still feels like a playoff caliber team for me.
I could see it. Yeah. Like I said, I think you're probably looking at maybe like 7-8 wins being the 4th place team in this division at worst. And I still think all of these teams, I see a realistic path for all these teams getting 10-11 wins. And obviously, the team at the top that continues to do well year after year. So I think that is going to be I think that's a realistic expectation for both teams, a realistic goal. And yeah, I think it's going to be just a couple games to separate all these teams from final playoff spots. And maybe all 3 of them make it.
Yeah, let's do guess the poll here, Kyle. How many people do you think? Where do you think the Chargers? Well, I'll give this away just because it's very unique how this has broken down this time. 3rd and 4th place are tied, so I'll give that away right away. Where do you think the Chargers ended up?
I feel like they ended up 2nd, and actually no, I think they ended up 3rd, and I think it's going to be about 18%.
You're high on the percent. It's 11%. You are correct, 11, though. They are tied for 3rd. With another team that we will talk about later on. So the poll at least half agrees with you because it has them tied for last.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a case for it, but like I said, I think you could argue 3 teams to finish last in this division, honestly, and it wouldn't be like that controversial. But that's just because the strength is this division, not necessarily these teams itself.
Yeah, Kyle. I forgot to put the banner up for the Chargers. Sorry about that. I'll put it up now if anyone's looking. Chargers fans, sorry if you're scrolling through. We already talked about you. Just you were the ones we started off with. But yeah, Kyle, that is the Chargers. Why don't we move on to number 3?
Yeah. So I obviously didn't have him number 4, which I think a lot of people were expecting. And I have the Las Vegas Raiders number 3. I think they got a lot better this offseason. I think that this could be a rock solid offensive line. I'm very excited for this offense. I want to see it play out. I want to watch it on the field because there's a lot of interesting pieces to this. Never mind getting Ashton Jeanty in the first round. You could debate first round running back. The kid's a stud. He's a monster. I think he's going to be awesome starting day one. I'm excited to see him play. You look at this should be a over-the-middle merchant style team. They should dominate the middle of the field in a lot of games because they have Geno Smith, who is a good throwing the ball over the middle of the field and just a good quarterback in general. You have Ashton Jeanty. You have Jacoby Myers, who's great over the middle as well. And you have Brock Bowers, who is maybe the best tight end in the league after his rookie season. He was absolutely awesome. I really like that group. I think there's a buy low aspect to this offensive line. I think it could be rock solid, honestly. And, at least firmly in the tier 2 for me for offensive lines. And you look at the defense, there are a couple holes. There are a couple questions I have specifically in the back half, but still you're dealing with a player in Max Crosby, who anytime he steps on the field could be a defensive player of the year in the NFL. You have Christian Wilkins next to him, who's a stud. And you have Malcolm Koonce. That is as good as it gets as far as a pass rush group where, yes, we prefer in this podcast, we prefer developing secondary over defensive line, but that's as good as you can get on the defensive line to cover for your secondary. So I'm high on this Raiders team. I think this could be a playoff team. I think this could be a 10-win team for sure.
Yeah. I'm also high on this Raiders team. Like I think this is a really good roster that I like that they said, you know what, let's maybe not do the conventional, try and get a quarterback, let's just try and be as good as we can be this year and we'll go from there. Right. Let's maybe, do something like that. I like this team. And Kyle, Geno Smith is an incredibly underrated piece. Let's start there. I mean, Geno Smith, I have as a tier 2 quarterback. I even here, like on the poll, a commenter was like, well, yeah, we'll see if Geno Smith just doesn't lose games for them. It's like people talk about Geno Smith as if he's this horrible quarterback. And I disagree. Is everything okay with an alarm or something, Kyle?
Yeah, we're all good. The microwave rang for some reason really loudly, so it's all good.
Okay, good. What are your thoughts? You're a big Geno guy.
Yeah, I love Geno Smith. I think he makes all the throws. I think he's athletic. I think he can play on the run. I thought he was really good. I thought he got a little turnover happy the second half of last season, but at the same time, I don't think all of those were necessarily his fault. I think he did a fantastic job in the circumstances. And I mean, honestly, he was behind a pretty awful offensive line outside of Charles Cross last year. And even if you're not high on this offensive line, which, I think you could nitpick it if you have questions, like this is still a substantial upgrade to what he was dealing with last year in Seattle as far as offensive line goes. So I think he's in a really good situation now too. I think he's really going to shine. And like you said, I think he's going to lift a lot of these outside receivers because he is good throwing the ball downfield, never mind what they have over the middle. So I think he's awesome. Yeah, I think he could be a floor raiser for a lot of teams for sure.
We can also talk about Pete Carroll. Again, this quest of can we just be competent? It feels like I'm going to go tier 3. I think he's kind of the right guy for the job. I don't know if he's again, is he the top coach in the league? But I feel like they need an adult in the room and he should at least bring that. We can argue, is he forward thinking enough with some of the X's and O's? But he should at least be an adult in the room.
I definitely agree with that. I like Pete Carroll for a certain aspect. I think he is a culture setter for this team, which I think was important. I think Antonio Brown. I think Antonio Pierce was also a culture setter in a different way, and they need a different style of culture for this team. They needed someone who had experience because, I mean, outside of bringing in Geno Smith, this just wasn't a team with a lot of experience last year. It was a really young team. And I think they just needed some adults in the room. And that's kind of what it seemed like they prioritized early on and then added the guys like Gene Tino that to add some talent. So, yeah, I think adding a guy like him is important for that. That being said, he's going to do things that drive Raiders fans and, the media and people like that absolutely crazy. He's going to have some decision-making things that are going to drive you insane. He's going to have some things where offensive scheme-wise that are going to drive you absolutely insane. And, yeah, once again, I think everyone was ready to say this was a slam dunk and all that. That, Mike McDonald went to Seattle and had a better year last year than Pete Carroll's season before. I think he still has flaws, even though I think he's the right man for the job in certain aspects. So we'll see how he adjusts certain things, but I think he did some certain things pretty well. I think he's going to do some certain things pretty well for this franchise.
Let's do the offensive line. You brought that up in a second. Quick, they have Colton Miller, who's just an established, very good tackle. DJ Glaze, who was a third-round pick, played about 1,000 snaps last year and played all right. Isn't a star, but played pretty well. Again, relying on a third-round pick, but it went okay last year. For the interior, I'm assuming the move is to put Jackson Powers Johnson to his natural position at center now that position has been cleared up, and then you have Dylan Parham as the other guard. I think the final interior spot is where things get a little hairy. Is it going to be Alex Kappa? Are we going to put Jordan Meredith in there? I'm assuming there will be a competition, but either way, there's concern there, and that's kind of what's keeping it from an awesome interior. When you also factor in, I know Powers Johnson looked good as a guard and center is his natural position, so that it should be fine. There is still you're moving positions; things can go weird there. And like DJ Glaze is a monster at tackle, so I think I'm going to go tier 3. Is that too harsh? Tier 3?
No, I think it's fair. I think that's probably where most people would have it. I think the one thing is there's a case for me that Alex Kappa just plays better this next season. He's had good years before in the past, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has a bit of a bounce back. And that's probably where it elevates to tier 2, because then there's not a lot of holes. Your biggest question is Jackson Powers Johnson, who, like you said, was a highly regarded center before playing really well at guard last season. So, if that becomes your biggest question, then yeah, I think they're going to be all right, because I think that they have at least 4 pretty good pieces. And then if Kappa regains his form, this could be a very, very good offensive line and potentially bordering on tier 1. So yeah, I think tier 3 is fine with the question marks, but I think there's upside here for sure.
Kyle, you and I have been on the potential for this team to dominate over the middle. First, that starts with Ashton Genty, the first-round running back, who many people, including both of us, think could be awesome and could be a star in this league. Maybe a Marshawn Lynch type of player. They also have Raheem Mostert, who should be a nice change of pace back. And then for the weapons, Jacoby Myers, Jack Beck, who they drafted as well, who's a really good over-the-middle guy, and of course Brock Bowers. Not a ton of receiver depth. I mean, Trey Tucker does bring something to the receiving room, but as a whole, this is a receiving room that should do a very good job at doing what it can. And again, if you think of Bowers as a number 1 option, well, Myers is a pretty good number 2. Jack Beck's a pretty good number 3. So I think I'm going to go tier 2s for both running back and receiving room. I can't go tier 1 for a rookie running back. That's not fair. I have to see you play an NFL snap, but I really like what they've built here.
Yeah. And again, it's a group with upside for sure. So Myers is going to do his thing. He's going to be there and be steady. But it's really the 3-man show. It's Myers, Bowers, and Genty. And if Myers is your third option in that, we've seen Myers be very good in the NFL. So that's nothing we can get upset about. Plus, you're going to add Jack Beck to that group, like you said. There's a lot to like about that team overall. You like a lot. You have Trey Tucker, who's going to be a little bit of a deep threat. You want more depth, and I think that's completely fair. But that being said, beyond Genty, there's teams also 3 running backs deep. Raheem Mostert's a solid backup. Sincere McCormick showed some flashes last year at the end of the season. That's a very, very good running back room beyond a starter with insane upside like Genty has. And then you have those 2 pass catchers, and maybe you want a third one. Maybe that's something they look for. If they start competing early, they look to trade for a third guy in that group. But it's at least a start of something for sure.
Yeah. Let's go on to the defense. We're talking a lot of positives here with this offense, but I think the defense, at least on paper, is where I have concerns. I mean, so first, let's start with Max Crosby, who's incredible, like you said, defensive player of the year candidate every time he steps on the field. Still just 27, too. I feel like he feels older than that, but no, just 27 years old. And he's an every down guy, so you're getting a lot of snaps with him as well. But then it's, okay, what else? So Malcolm Kuntz coming off an injury. Same thing with Christian Wilkins coming off an injury. You hope that they can play as good, but we'll see. You have Tyree Wilson, who year 3, that's kind of when those athlete guys tend to start to hit their stride. We'll see what he can do this year. You have Adam Butler, Charles Snowden as an edge rusher as well. Jonah Leawatu, another interior guy. I mean, there's not a ton of there's just a ton of question marks for me with this team. The linebackers should be okay. Landon Roberts is pretty good. You have Jermaine Pratt, who's fine. I guess I'm conflicted on where this can go, because I think it can go in a lot of different ways. But I think as of right now, I'm just, when it comes to run defense, depth matters so much. I think I'm just going to go tier 4 run defense. I'll go tier 3 pass rush. A lot of that is Max Crosby doing stuff on his own.
Yeah, I like it a lot more. I understand those guys
Okay.
are coming off injuries, but yeah, I think Kuntz and Kuntz and Wilkins are not like old players coming off injuries. They're still pretty young. I imagine they're going to recover. I guess if it's a wait and see thing, I can't argue it too much. But they are two really good players. I think that they can be. I think this could be a really good group. And if you have those three pass rushers, that would be as good as it gets, honestly. Because especially as you're talking a guy like Max Crosby being as good as he is, and if he's not the Myles Garrett, TJ Watt tier, he's as close as it can get, honestly. So I really like that group overall. And, I have no reason to believe that Kuntz and Wilkins can't be back at that level again.
Yeah. I get it. It comes down to it's there's no right answer, right? We don't know. And if you want to bet on it, sure. If you want to bet against it, sure. I can if they are all, again, if this is Madden, this is a lot higher than what I'm ranking, right? Like because then they just play and they're good. But I do think, again, we've seen it happen where guys come off injuries and aren't able to do the same even when they're younger.
Yeah. I mean, there's potential for it, but I mean, it's definitely wait and see mode. But I think that is a group I don't have a lot of worries about. I think they're going to be awesome, and they're hoping they're awesome because they have too many issues on the back half of this team. Like you said, I like that group. I like Landon Roberts. Adam Butler is pretty average, I think, overall for what he does. And that's basically your team on defense. You have paid a lot of money for those guys to be good. You have to hope that they're awesome.
And I think that's part of my concern is like, what are we getting at? Like Christian Wilkins is coming off of an injury. We're not getting 800 snaps out of him off an injury, right?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on how much he's recovered.
Yeah. I wouldn't bet on it is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, that it's going to be the question. That's the question they have to answer, or else they're going to give up a ton of points. But they're definitely hoping for one of those guys. I did not include Tyree Wilson in my preview, to be honest.
He got playing time last year, right? I mean, again, granted due to the injuries, but got 500 snaps last year. He'll get probably around 300. He'll get 300 to 500 snaps next year too, I think. But you're right, it's not a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you throw him in on third downs and just let him blitz, but we'll see.
The great Overlap 618 with a super chat. Final straw. You let Overlap on the show for his expertise. In parentheses, he has a lot as a mod of this showard, or else. Overlap. I'll be honest. I don't want to have to figure out how to get someone on the show. I want to have you on the show, but it's sort of like there'll be times when I want a haircut, but I still want to have to actually go get a haircut. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably fair.
What's your favorite team? I always forget. What is your? Do we need to maybe? Can we have you do a segment with your favorite team as the?
Are we sure there's a lot of expertise there when he said he has a lot as a mod of this showered? Like, I'm not sure there's a lot of expertise there to begin with. You already having me doubt your expertise with that sentence.
Yeah, Keyran says, "Do the pod over Discord." That's just not happening. I'm not. It's like you're asking like a grandpa to learn Discord. Like I just called it learn Discord. Like this is where you're at. Like this isn't happening. If I can figure out how to do it if someone can give me a simple explanation of how to do it, then I will.
Yeah, I got nothing for you, man.
I think
good choice for you to get into streaming in not no Discord.
Yeah, I don't know how this happened, Kyle. I don't go on TikTok. I don't how have I already become the old man? I turned 30. Yeah. I'm not even 30 yet.
Yeah. I don't even I have a TikTok exclusively because my family won't stop sending me them. And then it got to the point where it's like you had to add the app to watch the video. And it's like, okay, I'll just add this. I haven't been on it besides opening those messages I get.
I don't even. It's Karen says have him send in a video. That could work if you could record something and then I could play that. I know how to do. I can do that. I just do the thing where when someone sends me any video whatsoever, I just hit the laugh thing and then don't watch it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
yourself right now. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't send me a video. I don't like watching videos. If it's a meme, sure, but the videos itself, I don't do it.
YouTube video maker Jackson Kruger does not like watching videos.
I don't like getting sent videos. I watch videos all the time. Or like,
he does,
oh, hey,
he does
this is
not endorse watching videos. That's what he said.
or like if someone's like if you were to say, hey, this is something you think you would like, watch it sometime. Okay, cool. But I feel like there's an implication when you text someone a video that they should drop what they're doing and watch it immediately.
Because of the implication, as always Sunny thinks.
Yes, something like that. I don't know. We've gotten derailed. Where were we with the? Oh, we didn't talk about the coverage of the Raiders, and maybe Raiders fans are okay with that, Kyle. This is a. I mean, again, just throwing this out here right now. Eric Stokes is currently slotted as a starter for this team and as an outside corner. We'll see if that holds. But you also have Darian Porter as the other starter for the corners. You have Jacorian Bennett as well at the corner position. And honestly, like, yeah, Eric Stokes might be the best corner here. Like, I'm looking like that might be what they have going. He can at least play. Jeremy Chin's solid. I like him. Isaiah Polamau is the other safety. This is an easy tier 5, Kyle.
Yeah, it's rough. This is definitely where you have problems. And that's where, like I said, if you're going to spend this much on pass rushers, they have to be absolutely awesome for this to work, because obviously you're spending that money elsewhere. And yeah, if they're not absolutely awesome, then this is going to be a disaster, because this isn't nice enough of a group. So I don't know if you remember back to our rookie draft rankings, NFL draft rankings for players. I pick every year, I pick a corner or a defensive back that I like a lot, just because I feel like I know the position pretty well. I picked Antoine Winfield one year. I picked Jalen Pitre for the Texans one year as like my sleeper pick for that position. If you don't remember, Darian Porter was my pick this year.
Okay.
And he's a guy I really liked in the draft. That being said, he was kind of a one-year wonder, like late bloomer that was like a special teamer, then became like an awesome player for one season. This is a lot to ask of him to all of a sudden be corner number 2 potentially for this team in year 1. So
it may have to be corner 1.
Yeah, I really like him, and there's a lot of like training camp buzz behind him too, and potential. And he was a guy I was a huge fan of in the draft, all that kind of stuff. But this is a huge ask with this group for him to be awesome day 1. That being said, a lot of training camp buzz. If he's awesome, then all of a sudden you got a guy in your hands that could be pretty good and elevate this group. But you're asking a lot of that guy because, you know, Jeremy Chin's not a stiff to me. Like, he's not the worst safety you could have.
Yeah.
But, you know, pull him out. I'm not excited for. Eric Stokes, I'm not excited for. And then you lost Nate Hobbs, who is your ace nickelback, which isn't the most important thing. But, you know, we respect nickelbacks in this podcast. Maybe not the band so much, but the position is important. So, yeah.
Multiple times this offseason, you have taken a shot at the band Nickelback, which I'm not against. I'm just making an observation.
Yeah, it's fine. It just... But yeah, it's just, you know, not having Hobbs. Like, if this group had Nate Hobbs, I'd be like, all right, at least there's something they're good at.
Yeah.
They don't have anything right now. If Jeremy Chin and Darian Porter are your best 2 defensive backs, I can't get overly excited.
The good news is secondaries are notoriously weird, and sometimes things happen, and maybe that'll happen here. But yeah, as a whole, Kyle, I don't love this defense. I do like aspects of this offense, but I also think it might take some time to come together. It pains me to say I do have the Raiders going 7-10 this season, but I think it'll be a good 7-10. I think this is the team that like they will earn their 7 wins. I think that they will they'll beat the Chiefs once or something like that, as in tradition.
Yeah, I think there's a case to this team scoring points. Like, I think it could be a team that I don't think they're going to light the world on fire, and like they're not going to lead the league in points per game just because of the way the offense is built, because it's not like a lot of big play threats. I think it could be a team though that like the points per drive for this team are going to be high, and they're going to bleed a lot of clock that way, and they're going to score on a lot of possessions. And that being said, they're probably going to lose a lot of games like 27-24 or something like that. Like, that's probably the bad scenario. I don't really see a scenario this offense is bad outside of Pete Carroll being Pete Carroll. And if they do that and lose a bunch of games 28-24 and still find a way to win 6 to 8 games, I think that's a successful season. And then you add to this defense next season and make it better. The upside of it is definitely a 10-win team where they're getting a bunch of sacks. They're creating turnovers that way. Their pass rush is just as dominant as it should be based on how expensive it is. And then all of a sudden the offense scores, once again, points per drive for this team should be high. And they're going to score on a lot of their possessions. And that's going to be the successful part of this team. And that's where they get to the 10 wins.
I think if Pete Carroll can get this defense to be competent, which is like in the realm of possibilities, this is the playoff team. I really think that's like I think there is a real chance that this team ends up being not just like competent but actively good. Kyle, guess the percentage here for the Raiders. You know that there was a tie with 11%. Do you think the Raiders had one of those, or were the Raiders somewhere else?
I'm assuming they're in the tie for 11%, even with the fan base being, a big Jackson Kruger sports fan. I'm assuming they're going to be the 11%.
Oh, Kyle, you fool! Clearly, you've been doing this podcast for how long? Of course, the Raiders are second in the community notes poll, 12%. So they have one extra percent than the other two teams. But still, Raiders are second according to the fans.
Yeah, Raiders fans are the best. Welcome back.
Yes, exactly. It's very interesting where the Chiefs have what they have, and then it's 11%, 11%, and 12% for the other three teams. So I don't know if we've ever seen something like that before.
Yeah, definitely not. But it's certainly certainly an interesting division to talk about for sure. But yeah, I mean that's almost disrespectful to Kansas City to put the other three teams at 34%.
Yeah, it is, and it's a weird thing where the Chiefs have much lower percentage. They're at 66%, which is a lot lower than you would expect. But it's just because there's three other competent options. Let's talk about the third here. Let's go to the Denver Broncos, who I'm assuming you have as your number 2 team here, Kyle. I'm going to run to the bathroom. Why don't you explain to the audience why you have the Broncos at number 2?
All right. This is a bold assumption, I think, for sure, to put the Broncos at to say the Broncos are for sure number 2. So surprise, he's going to have the wrong banner up. No, I'm just kidding. The Denver Broncos are the second place team for me in this division, but I think they're awesome. I think you could look at if you took away receiver and quarterback from this team, from all teams, you could say this is the best roster in football. I think their offensive line's awesome. I think this could be the best defense in the world next season. I think they're fantastic. And as good as Bo Nix was last season, he's still going to go into a lot of playoff games in the AFC as the lesser quarterback in that matchup. So I have some concerns with those spots for sure. But that being said, there's a lot to really like about this team, the upside of this team. And if Bo Nix can take another leap, then yeah, all of a sudden you're looking at the Denver Broncos as a real force to be reckoned with in the AFC, which is not an easy thing to do because there's 3 teams at the top in the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills that are very difficult for a lot of teams to beat. And yeah, I think they're in a position where you could argue this is the 4th best team in the AFC behind that big 3. And if Bo Nix takes another leap and turns into a top 12 starter in the league, then all of a sudden you're looking at this team as they could be better than one of those big 3 teams in the AFC. So I think that there's a lot to really like about this Denver team and a ton of upside outside of a few positions.
I just got back. I'm assuming your explanation was just that you're just so high on Bo Nix, he's going to carry this team to championship contention.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I said.
I think so. Yeah, makes sense. Kyle, Bo Nix, tier 3 quarterback for me. I also have Sean Payton as a tier 2 head coach. If it's my fandom of his, it's not tier 2, but I don't factor that in. Some people would even argue he could be tier 1 head coach. Bo Nix is, again, that's kind of the question of the whole knock on him is what is his ceiling? How good can he get? Well, we'll see if he can get better this year.
Yeah.
And he was good bad last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was good for a rookie last season. I think there's definitely some areas of improvement, though. And as I was just saying on the preview thing for the number 2 spot, you could argue definitely, we continue to say, you have to, if you're going to compete in the AFC, you have to compare yourself to the big 3, which is Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore. Those are the big 3 teams in the AFC right now. Those are the 3 you have to overcome. And they all have elite quarterbacks and a lot of elite players at different positions. I think you could argue if Bo Nix is the same as last year as he is this year, you could argue this is the 4th best team in the AFC on paper. I think if he takes another leap and all of a sudden he's in that like Kirk Cousins top 12 range that we talk about so much, I think you could argue this is a team that could beat any of the 3 teams in the big 3 of the AFC. So I think that they're that close. I think this roster is talented across the board. Maybe besides another position, but this is all here for Bo Nix, and he showed a lot of promise in year 1.
Yeah, I think one of the real benefits of of the here, sorry, took a second to get my notes up, but Sean Payton is also, I think, someone we have to talk about as well, right? We'll talk about the issues and the potential concern of the receiving core and all that, but he is one of the few guys who you're like, it's okay that the receivers aren't great because they have Sean Payton. There's not many people you can say that about.
Yeah, and that's also, we did our coach rankings. That's why I had Sean Payton so highly regarded. I think
Yeah.
he's really good at coaching an elite position in this game. We have talked about it how many times on this podcast? How many times have you said the receiver is now second most important position in the NFL? I think if you have a
I
coach
won't shut up about it.
yeah, if you're gonna, I just think personally, and this is how I evaluated my coach rankings. If you're gonna value receiver that highly, and you have a guy as a head coach who could turn almost anybody in a receiver room to competent, like this group on paper was not good last season, but they became competent at least because of Sean. It's something we just have to point to Sean Payton's coaching. Like Cortland Sutton was a pretty good player last year. I mean, he turned into a top 32 receiver last season. You have a guy in Evan Ingram who can catch balls out of the tight end position. He's a good tight end. And even like if you just go across the board, Devon Vele was the 59th ranked receiver out of 133 in PFF, which doesn't sound amazing, but that's pretty darn good. Marvin Mims was 62nd, which, like, you do the math, like, if each team has two receivers, that's 64 receivers in the league. They have three receivers that were rated in the top 64 last season. That's not nothing. Plus, you're adding Ingram. Plus, you're adding talent to this backfield. I think that's a really good job from Sean Payton, again, who just continues to do this receivers year after year after year.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I also don't love this receiving core going into it. And while I agree about the Mims and the Bailey thing, one thing worth mentioning is neither had a ton of snaps last season. If you have Marvin Mims having 100 receiver snaps, is he going to be able to still be a competent player, or does he need to have those? Does he need to be a special teams guy who can do some receiving stuff? You got Troy Franklin last year who just didn't do a lot. I do like Cortland Sutton, and he fits this offense really well. I like Evan Ingram. I think he fits this. I think we'll see how he fits this offense, but I think on paper that should work. Also not crazy about this running back room with J.K. Dobbins, Jaleel McLaughlin, and then your guy R.J. Harvey, who again I'm not as crazy about. They also have Audric Estime there, but we'll see how all this goes. I'm going to go tier 5 receiving room and tier 4 running back room, but again with the Sean Payton stuff, how much will that be elevated? We'll see.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be elevated. It's still the weakest part of the team for sure, the skill positions. But I do think it is better than even last season. I still think Mims and Valley are pretty interesting depth pieces. Evan Ingram is a solid tight end. And then, like you said, Cortland Sutton has proven to be a solid receiver. Even if he's not like an amazing number one option, he's still a number one option in a certain regard. And I think he has respect. Keep an eye on Pat Bryant with this team. 3rd round pick, 74th overall. He is big. He's 6'2", 204. He runs really well. He had 20 yards per catch last year for Illinois. He had double-digit touchdowns. I think he could be a pretty interesting player in this receiving room too. And it's also one of those things, if Sean Payton values a receiver, I'm going to value the receiver a little bit too. So I really like that group. RJ Harvey, he's shifty. There's a potential he's one of the more fun players to watch next season too. I think he's going to be awesome out of the backfield. He can also catch passes. I think that's something I really value with him too, where like Dobbins is probably going to be the guy to get the hard yards for this team. So I think there's upside here for me for sure. And like I said, I think it's better than last season where they performed better than expectations as it was.
The other good thing about this is Bunnis will have time to get these guys will have time to get open because you have a really good offensive line here. Garrett Bowles, Mike McGlinchey as the tackles, Quinn Miernitz, Ben Powers, and Luke Wattenberg as interior. This is the tier 1 offensive line for me. Last year, there were just constant plays where Bo Nix had all day to let the receivers get open and make things work. Again, sometimes it doesn't always work in the playoffs, but in the regular season, this should still allow this offense to continue to have life.
Yeah, really awesome group. Garrett Bowles is one of the more underrated players in the league, I think for sure. McGlinchey, they paid money for him in the previous offseason. He came in and plugged in right away, was an awesome right tackle. I really like that group overall, like you said. And yeah, I mean, it was really good. It was something they really needed for a young quarterback, and a young quarterback who historically has at times, when the first option wasn't there for him in college, he held the ball too long and tried to do too much. And they needed that, I think, especially for a young quarterback with those mistakes in his game. So it really worked for them last season. I expect it to work again. I guess the one thing is like, I mean, you can't project injuries, you can't predict injuries, but like this team stayed amazingly healthy on the offensive line last season. Like I think all of these guys played like 800 snaps or some number like that. Like that's the one concern you have. Does that catch up to you? But like I said, you can't predict an injury.
Yeah, it's fair. That is totally fair. The defense was the reason why this team was so good last year, why they were a playoff team. And might have gotten better. This was the number one defense in points per drive last year, and the number one thing they did this offseason was improve their defense. Pat Surtain coming off of a Defensive Player of the Year candidacy. They've also drafted Jody Barron in the first round, a guy who many people thought should have been drafted higher than 20th overall when he ultimately went. They still have Riley Moss, who could be, a guy who, if he has to come in, at least shouldn't be a complete disaster. Not someone you want as a starter, but not a complete disaster. And then for the safeties, you have Brandon Jones, you have PJ Locke, but they want Hufanga, the safety that they, obviously he's an All-Pro with the 49ers. Don't know if he was the best safety in the league that year, but he won the All-Pro. He is someone who has had injury issues. And in fact, they also went with Dre Greenlaw, who has also had injury issues out of the linebacking room. So they've done that a couple places. But I mean, I'm just going tier one coverage. This feels like it's going to work, Kyle.
It definitely feels like it's going to work. I wouldn't be surprised if Jody Barron's starting on the outside over Riley Moss next season. And the most important thing for me too is like, Brandon Jones is another guy who I think is also pretty underrated, and it's mainly because he plays with Pat Surtain, and it's not really his fault. The big thing is, like you said, they have depth. They have a lot of options. Like you could take a chance on Hufanga as far as injuries go when you have a guy like PJ Locke behind him, because it's not really going to fall off that far. You could take a chance on a guy like Jody Barron in the first round because, like you said, even though Riley Moss isn't a perfect option, like he's not the worst player in the world to have as a number 2 corner, especially when your number one's Pat Surtain. Like it just works that way. And especially when you have Brandon Jones in the deep secondary playing that free safety role, I think that really works. And like, I even like these linebackers. So if like something happens to Dre Greenlaw, you have options at linebackers as far as depth goes, including guys like Drew Sanders in the backup roles that can step into the positions and be successful. So not only are they really good, they're back, their secondary and their linebackers, they're really talented. They have depth at all of those positions. I think they have guys they can go to too if somebody gets hurt. So they had the chance to take chances with these positions, and now they're just, this is Eagles' last season with the depth that they have at these positions at corner, at safety, and at linebacker.
And a defensive line. That's like, the defensive line, you talk about depth. Like just for interior guys, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, DJ Jones, Malcolm Roach, those are just interior guys. And then, for the edge, it's Nick Bonito, who's elite cover guy, Nick Bonito. You have Jonathan Cooper. You have DeAndre Tillman, even Jonah Ellis, who can get some snaps, if nothing else. Again, are any of these guys household names? No, but these are like, it's not, I don't think I can go tier one for either of these just because they don't have that Max Crosby, right? They don't have the elite, the Khalil Mack, but they're so deep at all this. I'm going to go tier 2 for both run defense and pass rush.
Very good at both spots. Another guy who I think is underrated, and I've been saying it since he was on the Jets, is John Franklin Myers. I think he's a rock solid player. I think he does a lot of things really well. Even if he's not elite at any one thing, I think he's just kind of good at everything. And I think that's something that's really valuable. I like him a lot. Benito's a really good player. And, this was a team, too, that, like, rebuilt this really quickly. Like, they let a lot of pass rushers go. They traded Bradley Chubb, and they just quickly said, okay, we're still going to be awesome because we're just going to plug and play guys, draft guys like Benito and make it work. And, yeah, I think they're awesome across the board. And if the worst thing you have going for you is a tier 2 run defense, front 7, then, like, I think you're going to be okay.
Yeah. So, Kyle, you have the Broncos second. The community notes has them tied for third. Not community notes, community poll. I agree with you. I have them at second. I'm going to go 11-6. I still have concerns about the receiving core. And I think that's just going to be an issue I have with the weapons in general. I think my concern about the Broncos, I guess, is have they significantly improved from what they were last year? Their defense is better. Their defense was already really good last year. They should still be, a contender. I feel like they're at least, last year they were the 7 seed who kind of squeaked in. This year, I think they'll be like maybe like the 6 seed that's like definitely in, but I still don't know if they're going to be much more than I still feel like this is probably a one and done playoff team as of right now. It's kind of where I'm at.
There's potential for it. I wouldn't be shocked if they're the 5 seed. It just kind of sees how it plays out. Like, I still think the Bengals probably have more upside just because they have Burrow, Chase, and T. Higgins. But, like, you know, we talked about the Bengals last week. There's definitely potential for that team to fall off again with that defense. Pittsburgh obviously has plugged and play a lot of pieces. That could easily be the 5 seed as well. But, like, this team's going to be right there. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like you said, I think 11 wins should be the expectations. I think this team can beat that because they had a lot of these similar issues and overcame them last season. Obviously, every season is a little bit different, but, like, you're going to have a better Bo Nix starting the year off. You're going to have these receivers. You have some upside with those receivers too. I think there's a lot of potential for this group to be really good. And I don't think, like, even 11 wins, I think 12 wins is on the table. I think 13 wins is on the table. Like, I think this team could really be that, built on this defense, built on the upside of their offense still. And I think they could be really good.
I think for them to be a real contender, Bo Nix has to be more than just a game manager.
Mm-hmm. He's got to enter that top 12-ish range, I think, for sure.
Yeah. If he can do that, I think and listen, the number one way we are wrong about on these previews is saying, well, this quarterback was this last year, and then they just get better. Like, that's the number one way we're wrong. Yeah.
And, you know, he exceeded expectations for both of us last season.
Yeah.
And I definitely think he could do it again. We're not asking him to do a lot. We both wanted them to get another receiver for sure. But that being said, like you said, in Sean Payton, I trust there. That's kind of where I'm leaning on that right now.
Yeah. I think I'd be shocked if they missed the playoffs.
Yes, that is very much true. I think if I were to bet on one of these 3 teams missing the playoffs, this would be my last pick for sure.
Yeah, I almost feel like, I think if you would say, you tell me a team from the AFC West that isn't the Chiefs wins the Super Bowl next year, I think I'd put the Chargers over the Broncos. But if you tell me only 2 make the playoffs next year, I'm picking the Chiefs and the Broncos at the 2 to make the playoffs. I just feel like the Justin Herbert, like, I just think I'm going to take the better quarterback 9 out of 10 times.
I get it. No, that would be fair. I don't hate the take. I think I might still lean Denver. I'm just really high on this team. Like I said, I don't think 13 wins is crazy for this team next season. Like, I think they're that good.
Well, let me throw the other thing at you then. We're going long, but that's okay. We'll have a little bit of a long break, so we can go a little bit long here. Kyle, the other thing I'll throw at you is we always talk about defense being notoriously fluky. And year in and year out, it does not always go to the same way. Pat Surtain, who was coming off a Defensive Player of the Year award, has had years where he wasn't this good, right? Like, that can be fluky. And what happens if this defense is okay next year, which is still something that we have to talk about as a potential?
Yeah, I mean, then that team will be worse for sure.
Yeah.
That is the pathway. Is defense fluky enough for that to happen? But at the same time, that's also why I just valued them adding so much players and adding so much to their strength. Like, if Pat Surtain is 10% worse next season just by flukiness,
or just because that would make sense because he's coming off of a career year.
Yes, I mean that is very much on the table. Johnny Barron's probably going to be better than what they had last season at his position, right? And the upside of Hufanga and Greenlaw is probably going to be better than what they had at that position last year too, right? So even if he's slightly worse, like, they got better across the board in a lot of ways. So I think that's part of the reason why I love their offseason.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think they did the absolute correct thing of saying, let's not just sit on our defense. That was good. Let's still try to improve areas we can. I think that was very smart. Kyle, who cares about these other teams? Who cares about the other 31 teams in this league? This is still the Chiefs league. They are coming off a Super Bowl loss, a down year for them, where they lost in the Super Bowl. That's a bad season for the new evil empire. I think the colors for the Patriots evil empire worked better, right? Chiefs colors are too fun.
Yeah, that navy blue definitely pissed a lot of people off. And then when it was really cold in New England and Brady would wear, like, the scuba suit and all you see is, like, this part of his face and he looked kind of like a dork. Like, that really made people mad.
Yeah, and the Chiefs are too. I mean, they've tried to be more boring lately, but, like, they're still kind of fun. Like, they still have fun players. Like the Patriots being also, like, the most boring team to ever play football just really added to the evil empire. Except for you, probably had a lot of fun. But for everyone else,
I had fun. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what that is. So
I enjoy Brady with the Tampa Bay, but I mean, just
Yeah.
when you're the death by 1,000 paper cuts, not always the most exciting. Kyle, we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, tier 1 quarterback and tier 1 coach. And we're going to start there. I don't know how long we want to go. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is still awesome. I will die on this hill. I will be the last person off of the Patrick Mahomes hill. Okay, Nick Wright maybe right after me, but that's it. Other than I'll be the second to last off of that hill. I think he's the best in the league. If you want to argue second, fine. But then also, I thought Andy Reid was like really good last year. Like I thought like the coaching for the Chiefs was really underratedly like clever with how the X's and O's went. Obviously, the questions about the Chiefs are around Reid and Mahomes, not Reid and Mahomes, but that's why we talk about this team as championship contender every year is because of those two guys.
Yeah, I mean, 12 wins is the expectation at minimum for a team with those two guys at the top, and that just matters. Like, yeah, look, I put Patrick Mahomes second in our quarterback rankings. That's strictly off of regular season performance. I think Josh Allen has been better than him the last 2 to 3 years in the regular season. But it doesn't matter because when it comes down to it, Patrick Mahomes finds ways to be great. And when they need him to be perfect, he is perfect in a lot of ways. We can go back to some of those playoff performances where he was borderline perfect and helped his team win games in that way. So, I'm not going to argue against Patrick Mahomes if you have him first too much. I just think Allen's excellency and his team's dependency on him being amazing was the difference maker for me in that ranking off of regular season performance. But Patrick Mahomes is still up there as the best player in the league. He is a superstar, and they added talent to his receiving room to help him for next season. So there are things that I think you can nitpick for this Kansas City team, and we're going to talk about them because you know what? When you're paying a quarterback $50 million or whatever it is, you're going to have some things that you're going to have holes on in the roster. We're going to talk about those, but this could also be one of the more talented Chiefs teams that we have in a couple of years. And that says a lot because they win a lot of Super Bowls.
Yeah, it's crazy to say that when they're coming off of 3 straight Super Bowl appearances, 2 of those were victories. That this could be one of the more talented ones we've seen in the past few years. But it's not entirely untrue. I mean, we'll talk about it. Let's go to the receivers, which was a big conversation last year. A receiving core that was below average, slightly below average, which, that stat that I had of a below average receiving core not making the Super Bowl, that has been changed because they made the Super Bowl last year for below average receiving core. The good news is they get Rashee Rice back, which he was awesome when we saw him play 2 years ago. Xavier Worthy really came into his own towards the end of the year. You hopefully will get a full year out of Hollywood Brown this year. They drafted Jalen Royals. We'll see if they get anything out of him. There's still Juju Smith-Schuster there. And I think this will help. You're going to get the plan is to have Travis Kelce play more of just a receiving tight end role and have Noah Gray almost get like tight end 1 reps to the point where they're going to essentially be like tight end 1A and 1B next year. I think that's a smart plan. So I still don't love this receiving core, but I think it's a tier 3 receiving core.
Ooh. I think I would have it tier 1.
Tier 1?
Yeah, tier 1.
I
think it's going to be that good. It's a hot take.
Yes, that's surprising. I mean, again, tier 1 is I think Cincinnati or Tampa Bay, right? Like these elite level multiple elite level receivers.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's
explain. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm curious. Yeah. Explain yourself.
So look, up until his knee injury last season, Rashee Rice was playing like a superstar. I think he was playing like an absolute star in this game. He looked like he was on his path to being an elite wide receiver in this game, at least in the top 10 category. Maybe not the top 5 group that we talk about so often with the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chases, AJ Browns, all that kind of stuff. But he looked like he was going to be on a fringe top 10 category up until that point. And that was going from the playoffs where he was also awesome from January. So basically from January 2024 on through up until his knee injury last season, he was on a path that seemed like almost stardom. And I think that was your first part. Xavier Worthy got off to a very slow start for the Chiefs. By the playoffs, he was on that same Rashee Rice kind of trajectory where he was debatably the best receiver in football in the playoffs, like up there in that category. He was really good. Yes, he got some garbage time throws at the end of the Super Bowl, but even beyond that, he was really good in a lot of those playoff games. I think those two at the top is a really dynamic duo. They have so much speed, so much elusiveness. I think they're both going to be really good. They both showed a lot of development, and that leaves you with, Hollywood Brown and Travis Kelce as your third options. That's a pretty good spot to be in, especially with Travis Kelce, like you said, transitioning into that receiver role, kind of being on ice. You have those options. Those are your third and fourth options at that point. And I think, you can nitpick, obviously, Brown, but like, he's a pretty good third or fourth option. And you're asking Travis Kelce to be that third option on this team. I think that's pretty awesome. You have Juju Smith-Schuster as a fifth guy at that point, where, you can criticize Juju Smith-Schuster a lot. He's pretty good in this offense. I really like him as a fifth option. We can keep going through the depth. You have Noah Gray, like you said, in that kind of pass blocking role, doing some different things. He can also catch the ball. And then, like, I'll say it, this is a sneaky signing too. Like, Robert Tonyan a few years ago was a red zone merchant. What if they just have him out there for red zone possessions, doing those funky Kansas City Chiefs shuttle plays? I think this team could be 6 or 7 deep at the receiver position. At minimum, they're going to be 5 deep at the receiver position with the Noah Gray blocking. I think that's a really good group overall, man.
Sure. Listen, I agree with everything you said. I think all those are all positives. I think the one thing that I would push back on is just, first off, hey, Mike Evans had over 100 receiving yards every playoff game he played in. So I think he was the best receiver in the playoffs last year. But I mean, like, A.J. Brown was really good. There were other good guys. I do agree, though, that Xavier Worthy was fantastic in the playoffs. He also played his best 2 games of his career in the conference championship and in the Super Bowl, which I think is making maybe people think he was better last year than he actually was. Still a player I'm excited to see what he's going to do in year 2. And I agree, like, Rashee Rice, was really good before injury. Also coming off a knee injury. Like, you don't just come back and are 100% immediately every time. My concern is I like so much of this depth. I think this is going to work. When you're playing against Denver, it's 3rd and 9. It's man coverage. Last year, the Chiefs were not getting open on those plays. Will they get open this year? I still don't know.
Yeah, and that's where Rice and Brown have to come in and be that next level guy that we're hoping for. I think there's a case for it because we just didn't really see it all coalesce because, like, they wanted this slow play, this Kelce thing, and kind of give him some time to ramp up towards the playoffs because he's obviously a little bit older. And then Rice went down, and it was like all of a sudden it's like, okay, we need to get Kelce going. And then Worthy came on towards the end of the year, and it was just different, right? And then Brown obviously was never healthy. That was a big part of it too. Yeah. I think having all of those pieces together is going to make a huge difference between, like, this guy's out and this guy's out. We're reshuffling our decks here. We didn't really see all 4 of these guys on the field at the same time. And I think that's something I really want to see is all 4 of those guys really playing and being pass catch options, because I think those 3rd and 9s are going to look a lot better when you have, big crossing routes necessarily from Brown and Rice across the middle of the field with their speed. Kelce sneaking over the middle of the field doing different things. I think that's all of a sudden going to look a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll see. I guess, we're going long, but, like, the flip side is, will we get to see them all healthy this year, right? Like it'd be cool if we do, but I'm not going to bank on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the concern. But like I said, you can't necessarily predict injuries. But I think on paper, if you looked at those 4 to 5 guys, that is a pretty talented group overall, where, maybe tier 1's a bit, audacious, but at the same time, like, I think it could be at least a tier 2 group for sure.
Yeah. Let's do the offensive line as well, which is the other concern that is fair to have. You have Jawan Taylor, who is a player that people have opinions about. Neither you or I are huge fans of his game. He's not the worst tackle in the world, but just, if he was getting paid $7 million a year, I think we'd both say, oh yeah, he's fine. It's weird that he's getting paid so much. They drafted Josh Simmons in the 1st round, who they want him to play tackle. They also signed Jalen Moore to about $15 million a year. To be, I'm assuming, just a backup tackle who maybe will compete for the job. Still don't fully understand why they got rid of Joe Thuney. If they were going to pay Jalen Moore the money they paid him, maybe they didn't realize the tackle was going to fall to them in the draft. I don't know. The interior, you have Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, about as good of a center right guard combo as you're going to get. But then there's the left guard question, which, Kyle, is it really Kingsley Sumatea? Are we doing this again? Is this once again going to be we're going into the season with Kingsley Sumatea hoping that he can be a starter? I'm not saying it's a horrible risk, but I just feel like for this team, I'd rather them have just an okay guard, or Joe Thuney maybe perhaps, instead of this situation. So I don't know. I mean, it's as of right now, like, is it crazy to just go tier 4, even though they have Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith because of everything else going on?
No, I don't think it's crazy. I I agree with everything you said. Are there still people that have positive Jawan Taylor takes? I mean, I just don't. I think the people people have opinions on him, and the opinion is that he's not very good. Like I just feel like
I think you're
that's
probably right. I think at this point, I think that
yeah.
it's probably the case.
We won that argument. That's fine.
Okay, good.
That being said, I guess like there are still different things to nitpick. Like, is it Mike Caliendo or Kingsley Sumatea? I hate that idea. Jawan Taylor is obviously going to be a bit of a problem on that right tackle spot, no matter what. I'm not necessarily sure that that's how it's going to look, though. Like, I think Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith are awesome. I wouldn't be shocked if next year it's Josh Simmons and Jalen Moore both playing, whether they're both on the left side or Jalen Moore bumps over to the right tackle spot or something along those lines. That's
interesting.
Yeah, I think there's something along those I think there's something there to one of them plays. I think they obviously would have preferred to get one of those. There was a lot of tackles in this draft that looked like they projected to bump into guard positions, and I think they would have preferred that. But Simmons was there, and he is a pure out and out tackle. I think he's going to be a left tackle. He's just that's based on his size. I don't think he's someone that plays a guard. Could Jalen Moore then play left guard? I think that's a possibility. Could he just play left tackle? All of a sudden, that looks a little bit better if you have those two guys both on the field, because I like Simmons. I think he's, he had the injury and it's a small sample size, but when he played, he was an absolute monster. So I really like that group. I like Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. Obviously, if it is Sumate and Jawan Taylor out there week 1, though, I have a lot more concerns with this team.
Yeah. It's interesting. For the running backs, just to round out the offense, Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco. I think they're pretty good. Tier 3.
Yeah, I like them both. I don't love them both. There's not much difference between Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. They're kind of the same player, except for one's older and one's younger, so people like the younger player more.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt was actively kind of pretty good last year. I think he was probably Kareem Hunt's probably shown more sense coming back than Pacheco did.
Yeah, I mean he's probably the better option, but I think they're both fine.
Yeah. Defense. So the one thing that we're talking about, could this be the best Chiefs team and all that? I still think that, again, part of how they won back-to-back Super Bowls was on the strength of a great secondary, which they will not have. Or at least they will not have L'Jarius Sneed, who was the number 1 corner on that great secondary. But there still is a lot of really good secondary pieces here. You still have you still have Jalen Watson. I don't know what's going on with Joshua Williams. I don't know why they benched him last year and what went on with that. I still think he's all right. They added Christian Fulton, who should be another good corner. You have Chamari Connor, obviously Trent McDuffie, who is an All-Pro, who was still really good as an outside guy last year. And then for safeties, Jaden Hicks, like Brian Cook. I still think the question, I mean, you can have questions about we kind of figured this out prior to the Super Bowl. They didn't play a lot of deep receiving cores last year, and they didn't get challenged too much on the outside with teams that had multiple good receivers. And when they did against Philadelphia, they really struggled. So I think I'm going to say, because of that, I'll go tier 2 coverage, but this could easily end up being tier 1.
Yeah, I think it would also end up being tier 3, tier 4. I think there's potential for this to go either way. I like McDuffie's a star. I had questions about him last year. Can he go bounce to the outside and still be good? He played 953 snaps as a wide corner last year. He was awesome. He was absolutely fantastic. So I really like him at that point. If he moves back to the inside, I mean, he's amazing at that spot. He was an All-Pro at that spot, so I have no issue with it. Jalen Watson and Christian Fulton are solid, so I don't hate that idea. And just do some different things with McDuffie. He could be impactful as a nickel guy, as also moving around the field. So I have no issue with that. I don't love the safety room. Cook and is it going to be Shamari Connor back there? Is it going to be Jaden Hicks? I just don't love that group. And I think that's kind of where we have a little bit of our, the false flags that were last season where, like you said, they didn't really, there were some numbers that really liked the Chiefs defense in their secondary last year. And it was kind of they just played bad teams at receiver. And they excelled
or
against
teams that had good receivers always had injuries, it felt like.
Yeah. And there were flashes of them just kind of getting torched, and we kind of ignored it for long stretches. Before the Saints had all those injuries in that game, they were kind of throwing the ball over the yard in that Monday night game. Then a couple of their guys got hurt. There's just a couple of things like that throughout their season to where there should have been more red flags that we were paying attention to, and we didn't really notice it. So those guys definitely have to play better.
Yeah, I agree. That is a fair thing to bring up. Also, to round out, one thing I should have mentioned as well. Good linebackers that can cover well.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil, Leo Chenal. That helps. That does factor into coverage. That will help. Also will help the front seven, headlined by Chris Jones, who can do it all himself. Mike Pinaldo is a good sort of number 2 guy. Don't love what else they have in the interior. I'll be honest. If again, are we getting significant Jerry Tillery snaps? That's not ideal. We'll see if we get anything out of Felix Nduke-Uzomah out of the edge. George Karlaftis, their best guy there. Charles Omenihu and Mike Dana are both guys who can play. So yeah, I mean, they did lose. They lost, they lost some pieces last year. The Panthers signed one of their defensive linemen. This still should be pretty good, though. I still think this is going to be. I'll go tier 2s for both. I won't go quite tier 1, but I still think this is. I would like a little bit more interior depth for me to feel great about it. But but I think this is still something that's going to be really good.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like you said, Chris Jones is a superstar, and I really love this front four. Like when they're all healthy and playing, like this group's good. Like Dana being probably their worst defensive lineman of that 4 is a pretty good floor to have. Like you have Dana, you have Karlaftis, Pennell, and Chris Jones. Like that's a really good spot to be in. You have that group. And yeah, I think that's a really good spot. And then, like you said, the worry is if any of those guys get hurt, because even beyond that, like Nduke-Uzomah is not even like an awesome option that we've seen so far. It's still kind of projecting some development. So there's just not a lot of options in depth, even at the edge spots. So that's your concern. But, those 4 are good.
Yeah. So as a whole, Kansas City Chiefs are probably going to be all right this year. I think they might make the playoffs.
Good chance of that. And we obviously don't talk about it with this group, but Kieran does bring it up. Like the special teams is awesome too, and they're well coached. They do a really good job on special teams. Not even beyond punter and kicker, they're really good too. So they do the little things to win a lot of games. That's how they won a lot of games last season, and they're going to continue to be good.
Yeah, I'll go 13-4 with the Chiefs. I think there is potential that another team could get the 1 seed here. I don't think they're like a lock for the 1 seed. But they're very good. I do think that the concerns about. I still have some concerns about the receiving core. I still have some concerns about the offensive line, and I still have some concerns about them still trying to replace what L'Jarius Sneed brought when they won back-to-back Super Bowls. But I am not overly concerned about the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, I'm not concerned. Like they're going to win a lot of games. Once again, if you're going to nitpick the Chiefs, it's about winning the Super Bowl. It's not about making the playoffs. So that's the thing where it's like, yeah, I have a little concerns about here. It's about playing like the Bills, Ravens, and whoever they play in the NFC when they eventually win anyways. So yeah, not a lot of concerns. This team's Super Bowl or bust again.
Yeah. The Kansas City Chiefs have 66% of people say that the Chiefs will win the division. That's down from 79 last year. Although I think a lot of that is just how people view the other 3 teams than the Chiefs itself.
Yeah, Raiders being better has their fans more optimistic. That's what it is.
Yeah, so I still think the Chiefs heavy favorites. Yeah, Kyle, that's our recap of the AFC West. So what next week we will do? Or not? Next week we'll go back to our normal time at Wednesday. So on the 16th, July 16th, we will cover the AFC South, everyone's favorite division to talk about.
Yeah, not the best one, but we'll get into it. We'll talk about it again. Could be an interesting division. Why not? Let's say it's an interesting division. We have 4 quarterbacks that we're all interested in talking about. There's no Will Levis next year, so let's get into it. Let's talk about it, and yeah, fun stuff.
Who are the 4?
Cam Ward, C.J. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, and I'm still interested in Anthony Richardson. I am.
Okay.
Like he's interesting. Like there's still moments where he throws like an 83-yard touchdown pass off his back foot, and you're like, oh my god, like this guy should be awesome. So I'm still gonna bank on the highlights and say let's give it a shot.
I think I actually uploaded a film study on Anthony Richardson recently. The view count, people aren't that interested. I think perhaps in Anthony Richardson.
He's a confounding player to me, man. Like
yeah,
like. I just don't think we've seen a bad quarterback with this much raw talent. Like it's not even like a Jamarcus Russell thing where he's like doing drugs. Like this guy literally had a back foot 80-yard touchdown pass that he flung over a defensive lineman, and it was like perfect throw. but yet the 5 yard out he makes painfully difficult. Like, he is so interesting to me.
We will get into the Anthony Richardson of it all again a week from Wednesday. I do have to say a little behind the scenes thing. So we always try to do the divisions in a way where at the end of the AFC is the Patriots division, at the end of NFC is the Buccaneers division. But I always make sure I start with the AFC North and then go around that way because I don't want to start with the AFC. So you can't kick it off with the AFC South. We have to at least have that be like after a couple of shows.
Yeah, that's the right way to do it. You gotta tease the people with what they want, which is the AFC South.
Right, exactly. Can't just burn that right away. Exactly. Kyle, let them know where you can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yes, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grana, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Of course, if you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline Podcast. It should be available there. A couple shows were missing because I forgot to clear the space on StreamYard and then had no download space, so I missed a couple shows. Sorry about that. But we're back and we're still uploading them on the audio only feed. And if you ever see them missing, just let me know and I'll make it available. But if I mess something up, but yeah, Kyle, any final thoughts? Are ready to head out? I mean, there's no other sports to talk about. There's baseball.
Yeah, baseball is on.
Yankees keep losing.
Yankees stink now, which is amazing. Red Sox, they swept the Nationals, which I guess means something. But if they can keep this going, we're over 500 again. I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, and even the Rays are in a playoff spot. This is everything's looking up for us.
You guys in the Blue Jays are good. It was surprisingly good.
And then we had this great run. Then we played like horrible teams. And then we kept losing to the horrible teams. So now we're back to like a few games out of the division. Like we had it right in front of us, and then just lost to like the A's.
Yeah.
But no,
baseball's weird. It's a long season, and crazy things happen all the time. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, it is fun. Again, that is our show. Thank you to everybody for bearing with us as we do these scheduling conflicts. We're trying to do our best we can. We'll be back to a normal Wednesday time next week, so be on the lookout for that. And until then, have a good one.
Peace.